Hey guys, Matt Marzillo here. In this video, I'm going to introduce functions and formulas in Microsoft Excel. Two very commonly used tools in Excel. If you aren't using them already, I'm sure you will a lot after this. So really simply, I'm going to go over this quick, simple example right here in front of us just to introduce the difference between formulas and functions, and then I have another more advanced sheet that we're going to work on that's very, very similar to your homework for this week. So if you can grasp this next budget example that I'm going to go over, you'll do great on your homework. But first, what we'll do is we'll look at this simple data set here where I have four numbers, 5, 4, 3, and 5 right here in column A. And we can use a formula. We're trying to add them up. So we can use a formula to add them up. And a formula is simply a mathematical equation, right? It's taking a set of numbers or a set of cell addresses and adding or subtracting, multiplying, dividing, whatever, together. So this, you can see right here in column C, I have a formula written out, right? So it just looks like you're using a calculator, right? So a formula is always going to begin with an equal sign. And then you can either type in the cell address, so I can type in A1 plus sign, or I can click A2 plus sign, click on A3 plus sign, and then I'll type in A4. Microsoft Excel isn't case sensitive, so you can see upper or lowercase a doesn't make a difference. Now that I have that typed in, you can see it also appears up here in the formula bar. Once I have that typed in, I press enter, and it spits out the value in the cell address B1. But if you click on B1, you'll notice in the formula bar it's showing the actual formula that we have typed in here. So that's a formula. Now what a function is something that's pre-built in Microsoft Excel. And there's many of them. There's hundreds of different functions. And they're predetermined, and they use there's a different syntax for every function. And it's important to know that Microsoft Excel offers some help. If you go up here to this function bar and you click on it, insert function, you can type in this bar, what you think you want to use. In this case, we're using a sum, and it's always going to show you the most commonly used functions. You can click on the drop down and go to all. And like I was saying, there's hundreds of different functions. I don't know what most of them mean. You're not going to use most of them. But if you can't find something in the most recently, if you can't find a function in the most recently used functions, you'll have to select all and do a search. So in this one, we're going to use the sum. And you can see down here, it gives you an idea of what the syntax is, right? So it's adding all the numbers together, and the arguments within the function are just numbers or cell addresses. So we're going to go over that right now. So like formulas, functions always start with an equal sign, and then you type in the name of the function and open a parentheses. That's for all functions, you're going to do that. Equal sign, name of function, parentheses to open it up, and then you start inserting the arguments. And for some, it's really easy. You're just going to put in a list of cell addresses that you want to add together. So in this case, it's A1, A2, A3, A4. Now we're not adding them together like it's a formula. We're separating them by commas, right? Because that's how the function's set up. It says you put the number in, comma, and then another number, comma, and we can do that for thousands or tens of thousands of different numbers. But for this case, we're just doing 4 different numbers. So we'll do A1, comma, A2, comma. Same thing with formulas. We can click instead of type. Click on cell A3, comma, click on cell A4, and then you always close the parentheses, click enter, and there you go. It's giving us the same output, 17. And you can tell up here in the formula bar, the function bar, or formula bar, there it says it right there for me. It's giving me the function that I used. So that's good. Now another option you have with functions is that instead of typing out each individual cell address or entering each individual cell address, you can use a range, and that's what that colon right there means. So that's telling us sum everything between A1 and A4. And that's a real useful trick. That's probably what you're going to use most of the time. You're not going to want to individually type out every cell address, you're going to want to use that range. So if I type in equals sum, I can type it in. I can type in A1 colon A4, then close the parentheses. Or what you can do is just open the paren and then highlight your range. So I left click, hold, and drag. I'll do that again one more time. So I open the parentheses, I left click on cell A1, I hold the left click and drag down to A4, let go, close the paren, and there you go. That's how you do a function using a range. Okay, so that's a brief intro. Let's go over to this budget sheet that we have set up here in the next sheet over. And you can see what we have here is we have by month all the expenses. So you have mortgage, food, phone, internet, gas, electric, so on and so forth. We want to total them for every month. We also want to understand the average for each month. For the annual average for each of these different expense categories. So for mortgage, we know it's going to be $1,800. It stays the same, but it looks like gas and electric vary from month to month. So we'll want to know the average. Then we also have our revenue, what we're taking in. So we have our salary, our monthly salary. Looks like we're doing pretty well here with $10,000 a month. And then we have some bonuses or something that we're getting from work that we get sporadically. So we're going to want to total those, or we're going to average those up. And it looks like we already have them totaled here. Let's go ahead and let's delete those out. Let's do those ourselves. And then we're going to take the difference between the total revenue and expenses in this highlighted row here. And then get net yearly income, right? So that'll be the difference between our total revenues and our total expenses. Okay, so let's get to work using some formulas and functions. I'll start by using a few formulas, but then I'll go on and probably use mostly functions. So right here, let's start with totaling up our monthly expenses. So we have all these different expenses here in January. So let's use an easy formula, and we'll add up each of them individually. So we have equal sign. I'm going to click on A4 plus sign. B4 plus sign, B5, B6 plus sign, B7 plus sign, B8 plus sign, B9 plus sign, B10 plus sign, B11 plus sign. And I'll hit enter, and there you go. It totals up all of those cell addresses. But gosh, that was kind of tedious. I don't want to do that for each of these. Fortunately, Microsoft Excel has this autofill. And when you're using formulas and functions, one of the reasons why formulas and functions are so powerful is that Microsoft Excel knows to reference the cells as you drag them. So I'm going to click on this bar here. I'm going to left click, and I'm going to hold that and drag it across all the months. And what you see is that the value changes, right? And when you look up at the formula bar up here, you'll notice that as I dragged this formula over, it started referencing the next column over. So Microsoft Excel is smart enough to know that, hey, when I'm adding up all these cells above it, and I move that formula over, I want to move over the arguments within the formula as well. Now, later on in this program or in this class, we're going to go over how you can change that, but for now it's important just to know that when you drag over a formula or a function, the cell addresses change with it. Okay, so for the averages, let's, instead of using kind of a long formula, let's just use a function. And I know there's a function in Microsoft Excel that's called average. Very, very intuitive. So equal sign, average, A-V-E-R-A, there you go. It helps me out spelling it. I open the paren, and now instead of, Microsoft Excel is telling me I can click in a cell address, comma, and I could do that across the way. But instead of doing that, I'm going to left click, I'm going to drag, and I'm just going to do B4 to M4 with the colon like that, close the parentheses, hit enter, and there you go. I have my average mortgage, which that doesn't surprise you, right? The mortgage stays the same every month, so that's no surprise. It should be $180. And I'm going to click on this autofill button right here, left click and drag down to get the average for each expense and also our average total. So our average total expenses is $2,393 each month. Okay, so that's it's pretty simple stuff right there, right? So you use the average function. We're using the colons instead of typing in. We're using the colon instead of typing in each cell address individually, and then dragging down to fill in the rest of the averages. Now let's also do the totals for revenue. So instead of adding them up, let's use the sum function. So equal sign sum, open the paren. And even though there's not something in B15 here for other revenue, I know that there's going to be something there when I fill it down for the additional months. So let's make sure that we highlight cells B14 and B15. Close the parentheses, hit enter. And let's click and drag. Okay, great. So that does exactly what we wanted it to do, right? So we've done those months where we got a bonus. Our total revenue is a little bit bigger. Great. And then I think what I'm going to do, instead of typing in the average function here in these cells, in cells N14 and N15, I'm going to copy and paste them from above. So remember how I said Microsoft Excel is smart enough to reference the appropriate cells when you use the fill button here? Well, it also does it when you copy and paste a formula. So I'm going to right click, go up to copy, and come down here, right click, I'm going to paste formula. And you can see if you look in the formula bar, it says average of B14 to M14. And that's right, yeah, B14 right there, M14, perfect. Okay, that's great. And let's just pull that down. Okay, excellent. So we know, our average, our average salary is obviously $10,000 a month. That doesn't change. Our average bonus is just a little over 4,500, right? So if 8,000 there, 2,000 there, 3,500 there. That makes sense. And then our average total revenue is at $11,125 monthly. Net income, that's a simple calculation, right? We don't need a function for that. That's a simple formula. So we'll do equal sign, our overall total minus our total expenses. So I'm sorry, that's our total revenue minus our total expenses. Click enter. And I'm going to left click and drag it down. Okay, so we're doing pretty well, right? I mean, we're netting quite a bit of money, which is definitely good to see. And then I'm gonna copy and paste the average here. So I'll just copy and paste this average right here. So I'll right click, copy, come down here, right click, paste formulas, and there we go. So our average monthly net income is about $8,700. So we're doing pretty good. So last calculation we have to do right here is we want to add up our total yearly net income. So that's a sum. We want to sum up all of our monthly income here. So that's a really easy calculation. We can do equals sum. Open the parentheses, and I'm going to left click and highlight this row here. Close parentheses. There we go. So that's $104,788 in net income for the year. That's pretty spectacular. Another way we could do it, and this is maybe just to show you an example of how you can use functions with formulas. We know we have an average monthly net income of $8,732 sitting right there in cell N18. We can calculate, we can go equals that cell and then just multiply that out by the 12 months, and that should give us the same value, right? That should come out to be 104,788. Let's make sure. Perfect, it does. Okay, so that could be maybe another creative way of calculating net yearly income. Okay, so I think that's about it. Checking my notes right now to see if there's anything I didn't mention. Two additional things I want to tell you, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous videos, but when you you can delete sheets, right? If you want to get rid of a sheet by right-clicking and selecting delete. You can't undo that, right? So everything in Excel, if you delete out a value here or you type something in, you can always go to the undo button. But when you delete a sheet, you can't undo it. So be very careful. If I were to right-click and delete this budget sheet and I didn't have it saved, I'd lose it. I'd be done with it. Be very careful about that. Sometimes also maybe you have a template you're working in and you wanna just copy a complete sheet. You can right-click and select Move or Copy. You come down here and you select Create Copy and you click OK. And what that does is it creates a duplicate sheet. So you see I have budget parentheses 2 and my original budget. They're the same identical sheet. That's valuable, right? You're going to want to know how to copy sheets. That's important. That's going to come into play for a later homework assignment in this class. Okay, that's it. That's all I have for you guys. So please feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email. Good luck. Thank you.